We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる。
Time for match 23 of IPL 2021, the first game at Delhi. And this is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. That's where our focus lies. Two teams that have had contrasting starts to this year's tournament. Chennai and Mumbai managed to win 4 out of 5. Hyderabad and Chennai managed to lose 4 out of 5. It's a good time to start turning things around as a new venue is introduced in this year's tournament, a repeat of the 2018 final. Of course, these two teams know each other well. And of course, before we talk about the cricket, let's remind all our viewers in India in particular, also in Delhi, of course, that do mask up in public, follow social distancing and self-sanitizing protocols. And if you are eligible, please do take your vaccine as soon as possible. Right, let's focus on the game itself. Dan Vettori and Dale Steyn both with me. And while Dale's all set for this one, Dan feels like that super over from the Sunrise has just ended about an hour or so back. And back he is now at 1:30 in Auckland. No better time to talk cricket again, Dan.
Exactly. Perfect timing. If it's, I'll be upset if there's another super over. I'll just pass that on now.
Oh, we've had completely contrasting starts to these two teams, Dale, haven't we? Chennai Super Kings perhaps have surprised a few of us after the way they started last year. They've come back with a bang in this year's edition. And Sunrisers, who a lot of us had a lot of expectations from, it's not quite gone for them.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth there. I think I had backed CSA not to do as well. Just purely on last year, you know, they had a lot of upsets and it was a difficult season for them. And I thought maybe that hangover may have come into this season, but they've come in as normal CSK, very professional. All the players are doing well. Dhoni's handling that surface very well that they played on and captained extremely well. Jadeja's been amazing. Sam Curran's been amazing. Everyone's actually performing. Even the guys that have come in to replace people have done well. And then those guys have gone and sat down on the bench to allow other players to come in. Those guys have done well. So CSK looking back to usual, whereas SRH, on the other hand, have just not found it for themselves this yet. You know, been very reliant on their top order of Bairstow and Warner and Williamson, and the rest of the guys seem to be struggling right now for them. Rashid Khan always good, but very contrasting in the tournament so far.
What does a change of venue do for either side of this situation, Dan? Would you be thrilled if you were the Sunrisers? Right, let's just get out of Chennai. It's not worked for us, not gone our way at the Chepauk. On the other hand, Chennai in Mumbai would have thought, let's nick maybe a couple of wins here and, you know, Delhi will give us a great chance with our type of squad. And suddenly you won 4 out of 5 and you move to a different venue. What does the venue change impact? How does it impact both teams?
Well, I think it's positive for both teams. I think Chennai is going to be feeling incredible about their performances so far. They are playing some very good cricket, and I think they've had a number of individuals step up, and all those individuals will take that confidence to Delhi as well. It's not going to disappear on them. They're going to walk into this game feeling like they can continue that form on. And for Sunrisers, I think they'll be thinking, oh, thank goodness we're at a Chepauk. We're onto a wicket that potentially is better. Kotler can be low and slow, but normally early on there can be some runs there. So I think there's two teams will be excited to be at a different venue for different reasons.
Sunrisers have made some changes. So as far as toss news goes, David Warner's won it. He's going to have a bat first, and that'll be the first time, would you believe it, in 6 attempts that Sunrisers will actually have a bat first. They have won tosses. They chose to chase in the early part of the tournament, and every other time they've been the teams that have played against them have decided to have a bat first. But here we see David Warner's side all set to bat first for the first time, and they make a couple of changes. Manish Pandey returns. It was a curious omission for a player that's on 11 crore per annum for them, and also a big part of their batting plans, you'd think. But Virat Singh goes out after a couple of tough games in Chennai, and Abhishek Sharma's out as well. Suchit had quite an impact in the last game in Chennai, and back comes Sandeep Sharma. He played just the first game. Changes that are welcome, Dan. If you look at, they've gone for 2 experienced guys in place of 2 young ones.
Yeah, I think it looks a good team. I think we discussed Manish Pandey in the past on this program around. We thought that Sunrisers lacked that experience in the middle stages, and that Pandey, albeit that his runs weren't come at a quick pace, he still scored early on in the tournament. So I think Sunrisers will welcome back. I think Sunrisers fans in particular will want him back, and he'll be able to add that middle boost that they need. Sometimes when you're left out for a couple of games, you actually understand exactly what's required of you, and and that lift and strike rate's probably the one thing that Pandy can bring to his own game, and that'll help Sunrisers a lot. And Sandeep Sharma's such an experienced T20 bowler, and he knows what to do in these conditions. So I look at that team on paper and say that looks better than the team that they've put out in the last couple of games.
Yeah, I'm curious to get both your thoughts on what David Warner said in the post-match comments of the last game when asked about the Pandey selection. It wasn't an injury call. He said it was a harsh call by the selectors. Now, let me start with you, Dan. You've been head coach for a long time, and I've not heard the term selectors used often when it comes to IPL franchises. So I thought the captain decides everything, maybe with the coach. But what did you make of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting comment because it alluded to him not being involved in that selection. It alluded to the fact that there would be people obviously getting together to select that team, and maybe Warner wasn't involved in that conversation. And most franchises are a coach-captain-based relationship with input from senior players and maybe someone sort of mentors have been used in the past. So for David to come out and say that meant that he sounded upset about Pandey not being in the team, and so his voice has been heard, and Manish is back in the side for this game.
Now, Dale, you've been part of the Sunrisers setup and more or less the similar sort of hierarchy that they have right now. Tom Moody's back in a different capacity. Lakshman's around, Muralidharan's around, Brad Haddon's there, and Trevor Bayliss is head coach. So can you explain what selectors at the Sunrisers means?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of them there actually to make some decisions, and there's some great names and great minds and great thinking brains there. But yeah, I think the only thing with Manish Pandey, I think maybe is that the selectors, as David alluded to, could be part of those guys that are there, and they may have established a role for Manish, which they probably felt like he didn't live up to. Probably wanted him to score a higher strike rate, for example. I don't know. I'm not in the back room there to know. But when you look at his strike rate, I mean, he's averaging 50, but the strike rate is an issue. How he's scoring his runs has been an issue. So maybe they've had a chat to him, and just by leaving him out for one or two games, he might realize that these guys are serious about if he doesn't play the role that they want him to play, that he's not going to play. So even though he's averaging 50, you can still find a seat on the bench. If the management don't think that you are doing the job that they want you to kind of do. But yeah, very very smart men in that Sunrisers management staff. I've played under a couple of them. Tom Moody.
Are there too many men though, Dale?
Sometimes too many chefs can spoil the pot, eh? But this is IPL. We love to have a lot of input. We love to have a lot of names. Laxman's been there for a long time. He's a Sunrisers legend. So yeah, I mean, it can sometimes happen. But if they were doing well, we wouldn't have looked at it. Wouldn't have blinked an eye at it.
If I remember correctly, with Manish Pandey in particular, I think they did try this a couple of seasons back as well, where they left him out a few games, came back, and he absolutely smashed it after. So is that just how you handle a player like Manish, or can it have mixed effects as well, Dan? High profile, India capped, number 3 batsman, big money, and you leave him out and expect him to come back with a vengeance?
Yeah, I think you've got to give something to the Sunrisers management, because they have been an organisation that stayed pretty true to playing 11s of back players. You would say from a distance, and Dale would know better, that they seem very professional and they want to be as consistent as possible. So maybe they're just harking back to that one experience before, that they knew Manish needed something to kickstart him, and this could be the catalyst for it. So I think sometimes we are able to comment on what it looks like from the outside, but we've got to trust that those experienced players actually they understand what's going on in the group better, and this could be the perfect decision for someone like Manish.
It was also curious that David Warner said he wants to have a bat, and MS Dhoni said he wants to have a bowl at the toss. As it turns out, like I said, Dale, it's the first time that the Sunrisers will bat first. As we look back to the successful Sunrisers teams of the past, they've liked to bat first, put a score on the board, even if it's sometimes a below par score. They've backed a strong bowling attack, at times defended. Does this in some ways work better for the Sunrisers, who've chased in every game so far?
Yeah, I think when you've got somebody like Rashid Khan bowling in the second innings, you're always backing yourself, and you want to get, if the wicket looks good, especially at a place like Hyderabad, when it looks good, get out there and utilize that, and Warner's the kind of captain who likes to, it's an Australian way to bat first, really. And he is Australian, so they like to do that. But, I'm not there, so I can't see the wicket. I'm going to have to trust what Dhoni says. What did he say? For again, he said it again, didn't he? That the wicket looks a bit tacky. So we'll see how it plays. First game in Delhi, so it should be an interesting wicket. But I like Warner's thinking. Get out there, have a bat, maybe do something different, and then back the bowlers. Sandeep Sharma's back into the side. Rashid Khan's bowled beautifully. Saw him bowling that super over the other day. It's tough work, and he bowled beautifully there. So. Yeah, let's see how this one goes for him.
Yeah, they've called back Sandeep Sharma, the experience of Sandeep Sharma, and they're still without Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Dan still looks a decent bowling attack, and they might enjoy defending a score, you'd think, with the way things have gone.
Yeah, I think the main point there that Dale pointed out was around Rashid Khan bowling second and the pressure that can build. So if they are able to start well with Khalil Ahmed, Siddharth Khan and Sandeep Sharma, then that spin attack of Rashid Khan and Sujith can provide some real challenges for CSK. So they'll put a lot into that, and they'll work through that to understand that that's something different we can do. And I think the other bit about it is probably frees up that top three a little bit just to bat and go for it. They've put themselves under pressure with a chase a few times. And that can be quite draining from a batting lineup perspective. So look for them to be as attacking as possible, and then Rashid Khan to be able to exert a different sort of pressure bowling second.
All right. The Chennai Super Kings make a couple of changes of their own in this game, and they would have waited on the fitness of Moeen Ali, who's had such a big part to play in their success in this campaign so far. He's fit and back, so CSK fans would be thrilled to see Moeen back. He'll probably slot in at number 3 as he has for all his games so far. And there's also an overseas change made with the return of Lungi Ngidi, an excellent game against KKR, which was his only game of the tournament so far. Out go Dwayne Bravo and Imran Tahir. So no leg spinner for MS Dhoni. Sam Curran, of course, continues to have the faith of this CSK management as the other overseas. But Dale, Lungi Ngidi returns, Imran Tahir goes out. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, just horses for courses, I guess. They're looking at the wicket and they've gone, we need Lungi back, we need the extra pacer. Imi came in for the last game, did a wonderful job, bowled beautifully, just like Lungi did in his first game. And they've obviously made it very clear that if they think the wicket's going to spin or it's going to do anything going sideways, that they're going to, or it's going to be really slow, then they're going to use the spinner. Otherwise, if they feel like there's the seamer is going to be a little bit more dangerous, then they're going to bring Lungi back into the side. So they've done exactly that tonight. So no issues there. Good to see Mo back in the team. He obviously offers something with the ball, but it's nice to have him slot in at 3. He's always. I always thought that he was a good number 3. When he comes in at the back end of the innings, he's such a team player. He doesn't care. He gets out for first ball going for 6. He doesn't mind. But you know that if he bats at 3 and you give him 6 or 7 overs, he can actually score big and score quickly. He's such a clean striker of the ball. So it's nice to see him in at number 3. Got my words muddled up there. Sorry.
That's all right. And it seems to be almost like a 1-point decision that seems to have changed the fortunes of the side. Now, Dan, this is very similar to the team that played last season and had its worst ever season when they didn't make the playoffs. And here they are making just a couple of additions to the squad. Moeen Ali is in and Suresh Raina's back. And without Raina having a big impact in these first 5 games, they look like a completely different team. Could you sort of make sense of how just one change seems to have made a world of a difference to this team this season?
Well, I think this is their best looking team that they've put out, and this has so much balance to it. And I think Moeen Ali has just offered that balance. And sometimes it's one tweak or 1 or 2 tweaks in a team that you think is struggling and it's very frustrating within a group, and that one change can make the difference. Because I think anywhere on the table, I mean, KKR, the bottom of the table, if they make one change and it pays off, then they can all of a sudden get on a roll. And I think this is where CSK are at the moment, that they've found that balance, and through Moeen and his performances, it feels like everyone's grown. Everyone's got their roles sorted. You've seen Jadeja in his last performance. So I think it just feels like the balance is there and that everyone understands exactly what they're going to do. And it seems simple just to say, oh, we've just slotted Moeen Ali in and that's made all the difference. But I think if you look from the outside, I think that is the reason.
And what do you attribute this turnaround to, Dale? Because CSK fans would be thrilled. 4 wins out of 5 to start off the season when it doesn't look very different as a squad from the one that played last year, and you saw that.
Yeah, I can't really remember what went wrong for them last year, but they had a couple issues and then they started losing some games. They got into a bad rut and it just kind of continued. I don't think Dhoni kind of took off and excelled very well with the bat last year either. They were hoping for that to happen with him. And although he hasn't, scored those quick 50s that we known Dhoni to do, the batting lineup has seemed really in a good place, and they're taking wickets. The bowlers are doing well. They just look settled. They just look like a normal Chennai team. Last year they looked like it just looked all weird, like there was something completely wrong and something missing. This year they're back to business, and it looks like nothing ever went wrong last season with them. So they're looking really, really good. But Sunrisers, being at the bottom of the log right now, I was just looking at the table. They're literally 1 win away from jumping into the middle of the table. They all kind of clogged together there from like number 5 all the way down. So Sunrisers will feel that if they can win tonight, they can get themselves some momentum going forward in this competition too.
Yeah, well, the only one change they did make CSK is they let go of Kedar Jadhav and he went to the Sunrisers camp and he plays today in this 11. So keep an eye out on how that dynamic goes. But it's still a team that a lot of us predicted would do well, Dan. The Sunrisers, they did particularly well to make the playoffs last year in spite of major injuries to key players. Here they are now virtually at full strength. No Bhuvaneshwar Kumar today, but they're languishing, like Dale says, just 1 win out of 5, and they could make that turnaround. But what do you say to a team that is strong, has the experience, and yet doesn't get the results? Are team talks shorter or longer in these sorts of situations?
I think you try both. You try the long one, you try the short one, and see what works out. But I mean, you're right around the Sunrise. When you look at them on paper, that top 3 plus a bowling lineup can get you to a lot of wins, and that's what's been successful for them in the past. And the middle order's been able to complement that. And at this stage, the middle order's really struggled, and that's led to some losses. But I still look at that team, particularly when Bhuvaneshwar comes back in, and say that's a proper bowling lineup in a T20 game that can get on a roll, they can win some games, and they can be very dangerous. So teams come up against Sunrisers, they're not excited about the proposition because they're bottom of the table. They're still wary of all that strike rate they have as a bowling unit and that top 3 batting unit. And if they get Manish Pandey going again throughout this tournament, then they're going to be a really dangerous team.
You've been part of the Sunrisers culture, Dale. They've tried 21 players this season already. We're only into our 6th game. It seems like something rather unusual for the Sunrisers, at least, where they make so many changes when they've not been forced to, when it's not been a case of injury all the time.
That's a lot of changes. That sounds like the Proteas in the last couple of years. I'm not going to lie. But when you look at good teams that are winning all the time, they very, very rarely make any changes. You look at Mumbai, haven't made many changes. CSK they've made changes if need be, conditions apply. But Sunrisers are making changes due to guys not performing. Guys in the middle order haven't really stepped up. There's been 1 or 2 injuries. I don't know what's wrong with Bhuvaneshwar right now. I'm just a little bit out of that. Is he injured or what's the story there? I don't.
There is an injury around him, so therefore he doesn't play.
Is he? All right.
Yeah.
So, so they've had a couple injuries. So they've had a bit of bad luck too, but they just need something to click for them. And like we said, when you look at that team on paper, that's the kind of team that can go all the way for these guys. You throw Bhuvi in there and all of a sudden they've got a side that can actually really compete. They've even got Jason Holder sitting in the sides there. He's played 1 or 2 games. So they've got a great squad. They just need something to start ticking for them. And that middle order has become the issue for them right there. But with Manish back in the side, Williamson probably going to drop into number 4. It does lengthen that batting a little bit more. And Williamson's been so good so far since he's come into the side. So they're going to look a lot better tonight.
Yeah, I know we keep saying this, Dan, that the teams, when they lose, they make changes. But did it surprise you that a team like Sunrisers made as many as they did?
Yeah, it has. I think if you sit back and you look at, say, Sunrisers and KKR, you look at those 2 teams and say, those, albeit where they're on the table, those 2 are still very good teams. And I think that's how we sit here and view Sunrisers through that lens. And so when they make all those changes, it suggests to us that they're worried about players. They're reacting to the losses, and that seems so unlike them from what we've seen in the past. So they're searching at the moment. They want that balance. I think the thing that they probably missed at the start was Kane Williamson, and whether he was injured or they were just trying different things. He can be their rock for them as they go on and balance out the rest of that lineup. So it feels like these are the 4 overseas they're going to stick with for the rest of the tournament, and that gives them some stability. And they've tried a few others, and Jason Holder, Mujib. So now this should give them the confidence that this is the 4 going forward, and maybe that's just the catalyst to get going.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break from the game itself. Should be a good one. The first game at Delhi. We still don't know what conditions will be like, but it looked like different answers from different people. The Ajit Agarkar saw the conditions, said looks great for batting. That seemed to be reflected by the pitch report. And then Dhoni comes and says it's tacky. In your interactions of having seen him playing, does he find more pitches on an average tacky than other captains, Dale?
Dhoni, he's a bit of a. I would have loved to have played under Dhoni, to be honest with you. Everything that I've heard about Dhoni is quite amazing. Like his meetings before games are very, like, he kind of like doesn't really pay much attention. He wings a lot of things. I would have loved to be a bowler to understand what his thinking is. Often he stands at the back of the stumps there and he just kind of waves with his glove to set a field. The bowler looks around and he goes, oh, okay, cool, I know what I need to bowl now. So I would have loved to have played under him. He looks like quite a character, but also a captain that's won everything. He's won absolutely everything. So I'm not gonna question his decision making.
At 37 and counting, you're giving yourself the best chance, because he tends to look at that sort of age group to pick players. So if you throw your name next to him, you never know, Dale.
Well, I think Mo said that he wanted to play under Dhoni, and all of a sudden he didn't just make it into the Chennai team. He's batting 3. So yeah, this arm is still fine if they're looking for a quick next year.
Who's to say no to that, Dan?
About Dhoni or picking Dale?
Wayne on both them.
I think the way that Dhoni goes about things is fascinating for anyone who hasn't experienced it, and you sit there and just admire the way he can run a team. He does it with a brevity of words and actions, but it seems to get the job done most of the time. So the Stephen Fleming MS Dhoni combination has been so successful at CSK, and everyone who's been to that franchise always speaks so highly around everything that they do, and they've remained pretty consistent. And I think that's where Dhoni sets himself apart, is just his consistency as a leader, and so every day everyone knows what to expect, and every day he says a wicket's tacky, so he's just been consistent. And I think that's the thing that everyone at CSK loves, is the consistency and the calmness around his decision making.
Yeah, the consistency is in his interviews as well, right? So whatever he says, we know what to expect from MS Dhoni. Right, as David Warner and Johnny Bairstow make their way to the centre, let's take a quick breather from the game and quiz Dale and Dan. It's the first all-international matchup that we have. So let's see how the 2 overseas pros go in our Intel Fastest Fan first. Okay, you both know the drill. 3 questions that come your way. Let's take the first one out of those 3, and whoever gives me the answer first gets bragging rights, nothing more than that. So let's take question number 1. The first player to score a century for CSK against SRH. I can give you a hint. It happened in 2015, and it was an overseas player.
Wow.
Is it Ryder? Oh, overseas.
No,
sorry.
Yeah. Overseas for me, not for you. Yeah. Right? You both know him well. He's a New Zealander. I'm playing 25 questions or something over here, I think, now, suddenly. He's a Kiwi batsman. Anyone? CSK 20. Yes, it is indeed. Brendan McCullum.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Forgot who played there.
It was Brendan McCullum. That's the first question. The answer is looking for. Dan can share that with me. A little bit of help. Let's go to the second question. How many matches did Chennai win last season? Right, Dan's going to bail out because he took a sabbatical last season. They
had a good run. I know they had a good run at the end of the year. They won four in a row, something like that.
So how many did they win?
I was
last season?
I was going to go with 4. I was going to say 4.
Nah, the thing was everyone from I think 5 till 8 finished with 6 wins. So that's how it happened last season. Even though they had a
Wowza.
terrible start to it, it coincided with a few teams losing out. Rajasthan finished below them, and that's where Chennai finished with 6 wins last season. Didn't make the playoffs though. Right, third question. It's still a 1-0 lead to Dan Vettori. The leading wicket taker for Hyderabad last season.
Probably Rashid Khan.
Yeah, it's good educated guess. Well done, Dale.
Ah,
Especially with Bhuvaneshwar Kumar ruled out with injury early in last season. Rashid Khan, the first educated guess you'd go for. Right, well done, guys. That was as easy as you like. It was part of our Intel Fastest Fan First. Let's pick up this conversation in 20 overs time with Dale Steyn and Dan Vettori on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. A quick reminder, of course, these are testing times. And for all our viewers, in particular those in India, mask up in public, follow social distancing and self-sanitizing protocols. And if you are eligible, please do take your vaccine as soon as possible. Do stay safe and stay healthy. We'll pick up the conversation in 20 overs. And of course, you can catch all the Vivo IPL highlights and live action on Disney Plus Hotstar. We'll see you in 20 overs time.
We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる